Welcome to part 1 of Whispers of Darkness 10 Tales of Macabre Terror. In this video, we will introduce the first 5 stories, from The Mask Sculptor to The Silence of the Forest. We explore how abnormal terror and madness manifest in everyday life. These stories will plant seeds of anxiety and tension in your mind, gradually pulling you into an inescapable darkness. Are you ready for this journey into fear? Let's begin. Christina lived an ordinary life working at the local art museum. One day, while overseeing an exhibit of ancient Greek sculptures, she found a strange letter. The letter read, "You are perfect. A model to remain eternally beautiful." Initially, she dismissed it as a cruel prank, but similar messages kept arriving. Day by day, Christina grew increasingly anxious. Then, one night, she suddenly disappeared without a trace. The police launched a search, but there were no clues. A few days later, Christina's body was discovered in the museum's basement storage. However, it was no longer just a body. Her entire form had hardened like stone, her skin smooth and cold to the touch. Though her face was frozen in a terrified expression, she was meticulously crafted, resembling a statue of unsettling beauty. No evidence was left behind, except for a single note that read, "She is eternally beautiful." In rural California, a series of mysterious disappearances of young women occurs, and Detective Sarah is assigned to the case. None of the victims return, and there are few clues. As Sarah carefully investigates the area and gradually gets closer to the perpetrator, she begins to feel a growing sense of being watched, whether at home or out in public. She constantly feels the presence of something lurking behind her. One night, while reviewing case files at home, Sarah glances out the window. There, a sinister shadow is staring back at her. Terrified, she chases after it, but the shadow quickly flees, as if trying to trap her inside her own home by wrapping itself around the surroundings. As the identity of the killer becomes clearer, Sarah realizes she is becoming the next target of the shadow itself. But her chances of escape are growing narrower with every passing moment. The shadow is already right beside her. Lily, a young violinist, was rapidly rising to fame in the world of classical music. Her performances not only showcased her immense talent, but also captivated audiences with the deep emotion she infused into every note. One day, she received a strange letter from an obsessive fan who praised her music as a sound that will echo for eternity, even after death. At first, Lily thought it was just another fan letter. But as more letters arrived, they grew increasingly disturbing. The fan became obsessed with the idea of perfecting Lily's music and believed the only way to achieve that was by making her a part of it forever. He was convinced that by ending her life, her soul would ascend into a perfect form of music. One night, after a rehearsal, as Lily prepared to head home, a dark figure waited for her in the shadows. As she attempted to flee, the man whispered, "Your music is eternal." Before attacking her, his crazed eyes were filled with the determination to sacrifice Lily to the music itself. Emily, a popular influencer, moved into her new home and purchased an antique mirror from a local shop, drawn to its beautiful design. However, she soon began to notice strange things in her reflection. At first, it was subtle, slight differences in her expression or a delay in her movements, but over time, the feeling of unease grew stronger. One day, Emily realized that the figure in the mirror was moving on its own. The other Emily stared back at her with a sinister smile and started to exhibit increasingly violent behavior. As she watched in horror, the reflection began to break things and wreak havoc inside her house. Terrified, Emily tried to get rid of the mirror, but no matter how many times she disposed of it, the mirror would always return. Soon, the mirror Emily began preparing to take over Emily's life, escalating her violence. The reflection sought to imprison Emily inside the mirror and replace her in the real world. Emily realized, too late, that there was no escape from the growing terror within the mirror. Rebecca and her friends went on a camping trip to enjoy a weekend getaway. Surrounded by the quiet and beautiful nature of the forest, they relaxed, leaving the hustle of everyday life behind. One evening, Rebecca decided to take a walk alone deep into the woods. As she ventured further into the fog-shrouded forest, a sinister figure suddenly attacked her. The man whispered eerily, "I am the spirit of the forest. I will make you a part of it." Terrified, Rebecca tried to escape, but her screams seemed to be swallowed by the forest itself. Her friends searched for her, but no trace of Rebecca could be found, as if the forest had consumed her whole. The next morning, even when a search party arrived, they were unable to find her. Deep within the woods, however, stood a new tree, looking sorrowful. Upon closer inspection, Rebecca's name was carved into its trunk. The spirit of the forest had turned her into a part of the woods forever. Thank you for watching Part 1. From the mass sculptor to the silence of the forest, we hope these 5 stories gave you a taste of true terror. But this is only the beginning. In the next part, even deeper madness and horror await. In Part 2, from the doll maker's mansion to the whisper of the lighthouse, These stories will lead you further into the depths of despair. See you in Part 2.